guys, welcome back. So in today's video I am going to be showing you how to achieve the perfect black smoky eye. I find that a lot of people don't actually know about this kind of technique when it comes to eye makeup. A lot of people kind of tend to go for the cut crease where it's lighter on the lid and darker in the crease, when I actually prefer this kind of smoky eye as opposed to the cut crease. I know this look is really intimidating for most people. It's not as bad as everyone thinks, and I've included some tips and tricks to kind of help you achieve the perfect black smoky eye. So if you guys are interested to see how I achieve this makeup look, then just keep on watching. Okay, so I already have on my primer, foundation and concealer. If you want to know what products I used, then just check the description box below the video because I'm going to link and list everything underneath there. If you prefer, when doing a black smoky eye, you can actually apply the eye makeup first and then apply the face makeup after. This is just good if you're not that confident. In case you get fallout, it's easier to clean it up and then it doesn't affect your face makeup because you're applying the face makeup after the eyes. So the next thing I'm going to do is set underneath my eyes. And as always, to set underneath my eyes, I'm going to use my MAC Mineralized Skin Finish in Light. And I'm using this brush here, which is just a tapered duo fiber brush, and it fits really nicely underneath the eyes. So just to let you all know, I did apply my concealer on my eyelids the way I usually do. The concealer I used was MAC Pro Longwear, and that acts as an eyeshadow primer as well as a concealer. So I just applied that on my eyelids as normal, buffed it in with my beauty blender, and then applied the MAC light powder on top. After I've set the concealer, I'm going to go and set my foundation. And the powder that I'm using is the Urban Decay Powder Foundation, and this is in the shade Medium Dark Golden. I'm just going to use this on my Zoeva 106 powder face brush. So that's all I'm going to do with my face for the moment. Next, I'm going to move on to my eyebrows. So I only recently tinted my eyebrows, so they look like they're already filled in, but I like to just apply a little bit of product through them to kind of neaten them up. Especially if you're doing a really intense smoky eye, having your eyebrows filled in kind of completes the look. It also gives your eyes a bit of a frame and a guide to go by. So I always suggest filling in your eyebrows before you begin your eye makeup. So I'm just going to comb through my eyebrows first. So the first product that I'm going to use through my eyebrows is the Gerard Cosmetics Brow Bar To Go Kit. And I'm using the lightest shade here on a small eyeshadow brush like this. And the reason why I use this is because it's rounded, so it gives a really nice soft beginning to my eyebrows. Next, I'm going into the darkest powder from this palette and using an angled brush to apply that through the rest of my eyebrows. To finish off my brows and keep them in place, I'm using the Urban Decay Brow Tamer, and this is in the shade Warm Brown. So moving on to the eyes, the first product I'm using is the Giorgio Armani Eye Tint, and this is in the shade 20. The reason why I'm using this is because it's a dark brown colour, and by applying this onto the lid first, it acts as a base for the black eyeshadow. Because obviously black is such a dark colour, it tends to look patchy quite easily, so it's hard to get a smooth application of it. By applying a dark base beforehand, it's just going to make sure that there's no blotchiness with the black colour on the lid, and it also helps keep the eyeshadow in place for longer throughout the day or night. You can obviously use a black base if you prefer. I just have this handy and I really like this product, so that's why I'm using this. So I'm just going to apply this really lightly onto my lids, and I'm not blending it further than my crease. And I'm just going to use a brush like this, which is like a dupe for the MAC 217 brush. When you're applying this, you want to make sure that you're going right down to the base of the lashes, especially if you're like me and you've got fair lashes. Otherwise, there will be a gap between the eye colour and your lash line. And I'm just using small circular motions like this to blend out the edges of that colour, and I'm not going higher than my crease. Next, I'm going to go in with a medium warm shade just in my crease with a fluffy brush. The colour I'm using is actually a bronzer. This is the MAC Mineralized Skin Finish in the shade Dark Tan. I'm applying this into the crease using a MAC 224 brush. This is just going to help act as a transition colour. This also helps blend out any of the harsh edges from that base colour. The reason why I like to use warm colours when doing a black smoky eye is because warmer colours are easier to blend out than cool tone colours. Hence why black and greys are really intimidating for people to use in the eyes, because they're harder to blend out in the skin. So using the same bronzer colour, I'm going to go in with a smaller brush, and this is the Glam & Co. EB55 brush, and I'm applying that colour on my lower lash line here. The reason being is because I don't like my lower lash line to be as dark as my lid colour. It just doesn't suit my eye shape or my face. If it does suit you, then feel free to go in with the darker colours, but I'm probably just going to apply this bronzer colour and leave it at that. So next we're going in with the black eyeshadow. The eyeshadow I'm using is from the Gwen Stefani Urban Decay palette, and it's just this one here called Blackout. I'm not sure if you can buy these colours individually, but I presume you can. And the brush I'm using is just a flat eyeshadow brush like this. The reason why you use these brushes when applying darker colours is because they really pack on the colour and it's easier to get a smooth application with them. With the black eyeshadow, it's better to start off bit by bit than to dig your brush into the colour and apply too much too soon. So I just have the black eyeshadow on one side of the brush, and I'm going to just pat that onto my lid. By patting on the colour like this, it means that you're not going to get as much fallout. And if you need to, you can pull your eye really lightly like this. You want to make sure that it's light because your eye area is obviously really delicate. But by doing this, it just helps you get really close into the lash line. So you're actually going to go like onto your eyelashes when you're applying this colour. And you're not going to go up as far as the crease. If you do, it can just look a bit too intense. So it's better to keep the colour just below the crease of the eye. When I dip into the black colour, I literally just go like this. Because this one's pigmented, I don't need to like embed the brush into the colour. After I dip in, I always just tap off the excess, so that way you're not going to get fallout onto your face. After you've applied the black eyeshadow, you're going to go into a darker brown eyeshadow, so not as light as the bronzer that we used originally in the crease. This one's going to be slightly darker. The one I'm using is this one here called Punk from the same Urban Decay palette. And I'm using this on a MAC 217 brush. And basically what we're doing is applying that where the black eyeshadow meets the bronzer colour. By applying that middle colour, so it's in between the light and the dark, it's going to blend out the edges of the black colour without having to blend the actual colour black. And then it just gives a really nice transition from the dark colour to the light colour. I always suggest blending out darker colours with lighter colours. For instance, blending out the black eyeshadow with the dark brown and then the dark brown with the lighter brown. Otherwise you could be there for minutes on minutes trying to blend out a black eyeshadow, and this just cuts the time in half and also looks better in my opinion. What I suggest is not to go too far into the inner corner of the eye because the product can build up really quickly there and it can look like a black eye. So focus it more so on the outer corner and in the middle of your eye here. And you're just using really small movements with the brush because these are dark colours. If you go in too vigorously, it's just going to look like a hot mess really quick. And you want to make sure that you don't have too much product on any of your brushes at any time during this. So after you've applied all of your eyeshadow, it's now time to apply some eyeliner. So I'm applying a black pencil liner today, but if you prefer, you can use a black gel liner or a liquid liner, whatever you like. The one I'm using is from Zoeva and it is the Black to Earth black eye pencil. So I'm applying this in my upper waterline and my lower line, so essentially I'm tightlining my eyes. It's easier if you just apply it and then close your eyes and go back and forth. So by applying the black eye pencil to your upper waterline, it's just going to make sure that there's no flesh colour showing. So obviously your upper waterline is kind of pinky here because it's your skin. So if you want the eye makeup look to look more finished, this is just a really small step that takes 2 seconds to do and it actually makes all the difference. So next what I'm going to do is just smudge out my lower lash line. Because I have that dark black eyeliner in the waterline, it kind of looks a bit disconnected from the really light bronze shade underneath. So I'm going to go in with the colour that's slightly darker than the original bronzer colour I used on my lower lash line. And the colour I'm using is the MAC Uninterrupted Pro Longwear eyeshadow. I'm pretty sure this is discontinued, but Bobbi Brown have an eyeshadow called Camel and I think it's really similar. What I'm doing is I'm basically just pushing the colour into the lash line. I'm not smoking it down, it's just going to go in between the black eyeliner in the waterline and the really soft bronzer underneath. So then it goes from the black to the medium to the light. Next, what I'm going to do is just highlight the inner corner of my eyes, just in this little area here. I don't always do this when I do a smoky eye, but I just feel like from looking at the eyes, I think it would look really nice with this look. Back into the Urban Decay Gwen Stefani palette, and I'm taking this colour here called Bath Water on a really, really small pointed, it's actually an eyeliner brush, but I'm just using it to get into this area here. So after that, I'm just going to finish off the eyes, and for mascara, I'm using the Benefit Roller Lash Mascara, and for eyelashes, I'm using the Huda Beauty Samantha Lashes. Okay, so now that the eyes are finished, it's time to go back to the skin and finish off my face makeup. So first thing I'm going to do is take my MAC Mineralized Skin Finish Powder in the shade Dark Tan, the one that we used through the eyes, and take my Glam & Co FB20 brush, like this, and just bronze my skin. So moving on to blush, the blush I'm using is from Wet n Wild, and it's in the colour Pearlescent Pink, so it looks like this. And I'm just using my Nima brush to apply that to the apples of my cheeks. So to finish off the skin, I'm going to add a powder highlight, and the one I'm using is from my Pippa palette, and it is the shade Lulu, and I'm using this on my Anastasia brush. For my lips, I'm going to go with a nude colour just because I'm a bit of a nude fiend, and I always feel if I have a dark smoky eye on, it suits me better if I pair it with a nude lip. Obviously that's just rule of thumb that a dark eye kind of goes with a nude lip, but if you prefer to pair it with a stronger lip, then feel free to do so. I'm just going to keep it really simple, and I'm using the MAC Pro Longwear Lip Pencil in the shade Etcetera and the MAC lipstick in Honey Love. And the very last thing I'm going to put on my face is the MAC Prep and Prime Fix Plus Spray. This just brings your skin back to life, makes it look a bit more skin-like if you use a lot of powders, and it just helps set the makeup. And this is the finished makeup look. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial and learned something new today. If you did, don't forget to give the video a thumbs up because it really helps me out. And if you're not already, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I will see you guys in my next video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!